Going on YouTube, Cloverbells here, back with another Scarlet Violet video, and today we're going to be looking at some of the results from the Dortmund Regionals that just wrapped up a few hours ago from Germany. Okay, 600 plus Masters players participated, so good turnout there. And again, this is right after Knoxville, right after Melbourne. That was, the previous weekend. So we're moving along in the regulationF format. And, we have all the data that we need, and it's all thanks to the Lab Mouse website. And some of the guys over there are doing God's work there. So shout outs to everyone working at Lab Mouse, because without them putting all the data together, videos like these are just not possible, especially in a timely fashion. All right, so we're going to be looking at the usage data first, and then we'll look at some of the teams and some of the niche options that were used and some of the highlights. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. All right, so this is day one usage right here, and it's good to see that I was right just about a week, a little bit too late. I thought that the Hearthflame Ogerpon would crack the top 12 in Knoxville. It did not. It was a little bit short. I think it was like maybe 13th or something like that. But now here, it did crack the top 12 in day one. So, as expected, I kind of saw that it was heading in that direction. And then from there, Fluttermane reclaiming its top spot. A little bit more usage than the Ogerpon Wellspring. And then, of course, you have Incineroar here rounding it out at number 3. And then, of course, Single Strike Urshifu getting much more usage than the Rapid Strike, but still Rapid Strike usage within the top 12 over here, right? And then, as expected, Amoonguss, Rillaboom, Tornadus, these are like mainstays. They'll always be within the top 12, especially in a format like this where there's a lot of hyper-offensive teams and a little bit more priority-based options here. And, Rillaboom is just another good fake-out option to have. And then Raging Bolt, again, rounding out that top 6 there in usage. Again, Thunderclap, very, very strong. And Assault Vest has been on the rise with Raging Bolt. So we'll see some of those teams in a second. And then Farigiraf, of course, very, very valuable at not only just setting up Trick Room, but also denying priority moves altogether, especially from Raging Bolt, for example, right? And then if we look at day 2, all right, day 2 looks a little bit different here, but just in terms of some of the shifts within the first 6, we have Ogerpon at the Water Ogerpon at a whopping 61% usage, leading the Fluttermane by a considerable margin. And that says a lot. And because this is so high, where is the Rapid Strike? Nowhere to be found within the top 12. Again, not saying it's bad. Again, it's just outside of the top 12 right now. And this guy is a big reason why. And this was true, in the previous regionals, with Knoxville and Melbourne. We saw this again. All right, but now Single Strike has risen to number 2 usage, right? Again, jumping ahead of the Fluttermane, 51%. Oh my goodness. And then Raging Bolt, Incin, and Tornadus. Again, very standard stuff. This is actually a really cool team. Like, if you just brought this 6 to your next regional, this actually would do relatively well, I think. All right, Amoonguss, Landorus, Rillaboom here, and then still the Ogerpon is the Hearthflame one is still within the top 12. So good job, Clover, with that prediction. And then Farigiraf here, still within the mainstay, but Gholdengo cracking the day 2 top 12 usage is also pretty good. Gholdengo will always find itself within the meta in some shape or form. It may not even reach the top 6, right? But it will still be very, very high usage. Make It Rain is just doing a ton of damage. Shadow Ball also a ton of damage. Even with Single Strike doing so well, like Terra Fairy Gholdengo is quite good, right? And especially if it's that Metal Coat variant, which does a ton of damage, especially, even with Nasty Plot, Gholdengo is just doing so much damage. But yeah, not too much different as far as like what we expected. It's just the fact that the Ogerpon Wellspring is just number 1 right now over the Fluttermane at number 3. You can't say you didn't expect that, right? I think it's just, the fact that it's concrete and on the screen is just what is mind-blowing a little bit, right? So that's as far as day 2 is concerned. In terms of like usage, you don't really see the Dragonites, the Chenpaos, and the Entei. They're still within the meta, but of course, I would say they're within top 20. We can even take a look at the Lab Mouse just to see where exactly those guys lie. And then, stuff like King Gambit is still there. Even Gouging Fire, which I thought could crack the top 12, but I think it just fell a little bit short. But we'll just see where exactly it lies when we look at the Lab Mouse website. All right, let's take a look at the 2 finalist teams. And of course, we'll start with the winner, Florian, aka Pika VGC. And, if you've been a follower of our channel for a very long time, you would remember that Florian is actually one of our special guests that made us use Ditto on the channel way back when in Sword and Shield when he was part of our collaboration series. So congratulations to him. Shout outs to Florian. And let's take a look at his team here. And it's actually a very, very standard Farigiraf Blood Moon team. This is actually the same 6 that we have in our February rental, just a little bit different sets and, you know, I'm sure, and terrestrializations, right? So the Incineroar here is Tera Fairy, so that's very, very nice, of course, you know, able to fight off the fighting moves from something like Sacred Sword Chien-Pao or Close Combat Urshifu. Farigiraf and the Blood Moon Ursaluna are also relatively standard. This is a little bit less offensive Farigiraf. This is Dazzling Beam, Psychic with Citrus Berry, so no Throat Spray here. And it does have the Citrus Berry for bulk. Ogerpon looks relatively standard. Same thing with Fluttermane with Choice Specs and Icy Wind, also relatively standard. And the Blood Moon with Life Orb and Terra Nova also pretty standard. So like everything is actually pretty good here. The Incineroar with Safety Goggles just allows that to get around Amoonguss in Trick Room. Otherwise, Amoonguss in Trick Room puts a lot of these options to sleep. So Incineroar gives you some utility in that kind of matchup. So all in all, it just really comes down to Florian being able to pilot what is otherwise a standard Farigiraf Blood Moon team. And it's nice to see Blood Moon actually take a regional, right? It's gotten like very, very strong results, but you know, it's finally gotten that big regional win. So shout outs again to Florian, aka Pika VGC, or even he goes by another name, Trobius, I think, something like that. But let's go into Nick's team over here. So Nick also has a Gouging Fire team, which is again another archetype that has risen through the ranks, that is dominating the meta right now. Gouging Fire, King Gambit, very strong. Again, able to go for Howl, boost up your King Gambit, boost up your Ogerpon, boost up your Rillaboom. We've featured these 4 on our own Gouging Fire team. Remember that squad that we gave Philip that he used to win the Knoxville MSS. So similar concept here, right? Then this is Safety Goggles King Gambit, so that's also pretty cool. That'll help you get around the Amoonguss especially. And then Rillaboom here, very standard Assault Vest with Tera Fire set. But the Porygon Tera Poison is the new option here. And this Pokemon in particular has also started to rise within the regulationF meta, along with Ting Lu and of course Kommo-O, which we'll cover in a second. But Tera Blast, Tera Poison is the newest toy that people are playing with right now with Porygon. Ice Beam, Recover, and Trick Room are relatively standard. Again, Ice Beam really good into Landers, which is something that can give King Gambit, Rillaboom, and Gouging Fire a lot of trouble. And even the Ogerpon, especially if the Landers does terrestrialize into Tera Poison, you know, Sludge Bomb is just going to do a ton of damage here. Parasong I do like, especially just because that gives you a good option against a lot of those annoying setup mons like the Kommo, like the Registeels, and like other Howl boosted Pokemon. Parasong just gives you a tool that you can use in that sense. But really, really good to have a bulky Trick Room setter here with Porygon, because if besides that, it's just, you know, you don't have a lot of speed control here. You're just basically relying on your bulk here to be able to take those hits and survive, and then, you know, pressure with your priority moves, you know, with Sucker Punches and Grassy Glides here. And, you know, the fact that we can boost them makes them do a lot of damage, right? So Porygon gives you some speed control in that sense. I've even seen Farigiraf on teams like this, and even Cresselia to an extent, but Porygon just makes a little bit more sense right now. So shout outs to Nick for coming up with a cool squad. And again, it just fulfills your typical VGC course: Fire, Water, Grass, you know, Dragon, Fairy, Steel, of course. Then the Porygon being the odd one out, but again, giving you utility for your squad in general here. So good job from both players. So now let's take a look at some archetypes and some niche options that we saw in Dortmund. So I wanted to spotlight Hearthflame for a second. So basically, this is one of those options where I thought could crack the top 12 a couple weeks ago, and it did finally. I was a little bit off in Knoxville, but now it has it here at Dortmund. And here's a very standard set like Ivy, Cudgel, Woodhammer, Follow Me, and Spiky Shield. Now there is some variance, of course. You can also opt for Grassy Glide here, especially if you have Rillaboom on your team. And you can also forego the the Follow Me for the Stomping Tantrum, just to have a little bit of ground coverage here, because again, you're getting a +1 attack here. So, you know, these attacks are gonna hit relatively hard, especially if you have a Rillaboom on your team, right? Like +1 Grassy Glides in grassy terrain is actually gonna do a ton of damage. So, you know, great job here from our players at Dortmund, utilizing the Ogerpon for a great offensive weapon. If we go back to Scarlet just for a second, we go into Nick's team over here. This was the Farigiraf Blood Moon variation that also featured Tornadus. So you have a fast mode and a slow mode here, and the Ogerpon here had Wood Hammer. You know, there is no Rillaboom here, so no need for the Grassy Glide, but you get another Redirector to help set up the Trick Room, or even potentially the Tailwind over here, right? So if we go into Dortmund, into the Lab Mouse website, and we can actually see Nick's team a lot, you know, within day 2. Like, these are almost carbon copies. I actually want to take a look and just see if these were exactly the same teams, you know, or maybe there was some variance in the sets. But let's take a look at over here at number 2 from Sergio, basically saying, I'm going to rely on the priority stuff with Dragonite, Chien-Pao, Urshifu, Rillaboom, and then have Ogerpon Wellspring join the fray here with Grassy Glide because I have Rillaboom here. And then the Raging Bolt is just my other priority Pokemon here. That's a special attacker. So lots of options here. This is actually like priority galore in terms of like using, yeah, again, like I said, priority moves. So that's Sergio's team at rank 3. So shout outs to Sergio for doing a great job. But then as we keep going down, it's basically Nick's team. So if speaking of Nick, here's another Nick. Is this... All right, so this is Trick Room, Dazzling Gleam, Psychic helping out. So no Imprison here. This is the Tornadus Rocky Helmet set with Taunt, Dark Urshifu with Stellar Terrestrialization. Here's the Ogerpon here with Woodhammer, and then Blood Moon, and Clear Amulet, Iron Hands, of course, you know, just to deter some of those Intimidates onto it. So that was from Nick here at 16th place. Then if we go over here, 19th place here from Amin. All right. This one looks like more or less the same idea, right? With the Clear Amulet, Iron Hands. There's the Tornadus Rocky Helmet set. I think we may see that throughout. Let's just take a look here. Let's look at Sam's team. Yeah, pretty much it. All right, this one has Covert Cloak, Terra Steel, along with Icy Wind. So there's one variance there, right? So that's what we're saying. Like, you might see the same Pokemon, but do they have the same sets? All right, this one. All right, so Terra Steel again. All right, so this one has a little bit of variance, right? Actually, almost the same thing. But Benjamin's team, let's look at one more. Yeah, like, so what is the consensus here? Like, you're going to find a lot of Ogerpon-Hearthflames on these Farigiraf Blood Moon teams, especially with Tornadus, just because it was very popular at Charlotte. And then as we go down to some of the 6-3s, you can also see it's still the same team over there, right? They were just one win away, but then you get something a little bit interesting where you have like this one. This one has Registeel here with Cresselia. So you have Instant and both Ogerpon here, right? And then here's Raging Bull. I do like Registeel, Raging Bull together with the Trick Room setter. We did that with our Primarina team, and I think it's still very good, okay? But this is another variation where you can see Ogerpon-Hearthflame over here with Taunt, by the way. I don't know if you guys caught that. All right, and then over here, what else was there? This one has the hyper offensive mode with Tornadus still, but no Blood Moon. This is just straight Regidrago Gholdengo stuff with the Rillaboom and the Ogerpon here. So now again, this one is Grassy Glide with Follow Me, and here's the Assault Vest Rillaboom here. So what do we get out of this? So basically, if you really want to use Heartflame Ogerpon, you can pretty much just use a copy or a variation of Nick's team, or you can pretty much use it with something like Regidrago Tornadus, which is something that we saw here from Andrea, and also over here from Davide, 9-5 day 2, right? So Iron Crown team over here with Indeedee along with Tornadus, and then here is the Ogerpon-Hearthflame, again providing redirection support and giving you that aggressive fire option along with that grass option that you might need against the Ogerpon Wellspring in particular, right? And here is Rain Dance, so that might reduce your fire damage, but that also helps your Urshifu Rapid Strike as well as your Terra Blast, Terra Water here from the Iron Crown. So, you know, do with that information with what you will, but it is very clear to see the popular team that Heartflame Ogerpon was used on. Next up, I want to spotlight Assault Vest Raging Bolt here. So we kind of saw this, you know, in the previous couple of regionals, and it's even more seen here at Dortmund. So, but, you know, here's the sample set. This is one of our spreads for Assault Vest Raging Bolt. Super bulky, super slow, but again, when you're able to take attacks, you're doing relatively well. That says Dragon Breath. I meant Dragon Pulse. So let me just go ahead and adjust that here. So here's the standard set, as well as Thunder Clap, right? Not Thunder, but here he is. So like, basically you have speed control with Electro Web and Snarl. Now that being said, you can forgo one of these, but I think you can keep Snarl more or less than the Electro Web. So what you can even also substitute here is straight up Thunderbolt, rather than, you know, the Electro Webs, and just get a little bit more damage. But basically, you have the bulk here to survive stuff like Chien-Pao here from the ice moves, and then you're hitting the bump here in the special attack stat, and then a little bit of Spadef here with the assault vest that can, you know, do wonders against Flutter Mains, especially with their Moonblast, especially Tera Fairy shenanigans, right? And then Tera Fairy, which is really good here. Again, that's great into the mirror matchup. So this way, if the things want to click, you know, Breaking Swipes or Draco Meteors, you can go Tera Fairy, and now all of a sudden those dragon moves are not going to do any damage to you, right? So here's a very standard set. So if we go into the regional, where do we see Raging Bolt, and what kind of sets are they running in the regional? So if we just look at Sergio's team one more time, he's actually not using Assault Vest here. He's actually using a Safety Goggles set with Bolt, Clap, and Meteor. So Goggles here is actually really good at getting around Amoonguss, because one way to really negate the priority move from Raging Bolt is to redirect with something like Rage Powder. And, you know, Safety Goggles was a thing before the Assault Vest set. So Sergio is making use of it one more time here in Dortmund. So shout outs to him. But after that, let's take a look here. So this is, again, priority stuff with Chien-Pao and Rillaboom. Here's the Assault Vest Tera Fairy set. So this one has Clap and Snarl and E-Webs, right? And Draco Meteor as opposed to Dragon Pulse. So, you know, makes a lot of sense there. But, you know, you get a little bit of speed control here with E-Webs. You get a little bit of speed control here with Icy Wind, which is all you really need, because you have 1, 2, 3 Pokemon, technically 4, going for priority moves. And then your Ogerpon Wellspring just gives you a little bit of redirection, a little bit of balance for your squad. So this way you can protect some of these Pokemon, you know, from harm's way. So Francesco, great job there. Another Francesco here. How about Pardini's team with the Tornadus? A little bit more of a faster mode. But again, the Bolt here still going for Snarl and Electrowebs along with Tailwind. So again, 2 forms of speed control, right? And then a little bit more balance with Incineroar, Ogerpon, again, Fire, Water, Grass Core, and then Gholdengo, you know, having a nice appearance here. Also doing relatively well behind Redirection and Tailwind support. So that's pretty good there. Then Victor's team, you know, this one with Fluttermane Chiyu. So Raging Bolt can do a little bit more damage with Chiyu on its side, but still we see E-Webs and Snarl. This is Clap and Pulse, okay? And here's the substitute Landorus, which is also going to do a lot of damage with Fluttermane and Chiyu over here. So that's pretty cool from Victor. Then we go into the double dragon idea. Guillermo's actually, I think it's pretty much the same thing over there as Victor's team. But if we go into Maddie's team with the Roaring Moon Raging Bolt idea, and we'll cover this when we look at more Roaring Moon teams. But again, Snarl here, but no E-Webs. That's fine, because you have pretty much a balanced approach here with Incineroar, Ogerpon, and Amoonguss. So you have double redirection, technically. Then you have Intimidate and Fake Out Pressure. And again, just all you need is Intimidate and Snarl to reduce damage. So this way Roaring Moon can set up Dragon Dance and start sweeping. Fluttermane is also relatively strong with Choice Specs. And Parasong, again, like we said, is just used to get rid of annoying setup Pokemon altogether. So Raging Bolt, Roaring Moon ideas along with Fluttermane is also pretty good. But again, we see a lot of Assault Vests. Let's look at one more over here. See if we can get something a little bit different. But you can see a lot of common cores here. Let's look at this one, 9-5 with Registeel here. Like Cresselia, Registeel, and then Raging Bolt. This is another core that I like myself, and it's one of my favorite cores where you have a Registeel, a Trichum Setter, in this case Cresselia. We use Porygon and then Raging Bolt. I think that trio can do relatively well. I may remake a rental like this just because I enjoy stuff like Registeel and Raging Bolt in Trick Room. But again, Snarl coming yet again. Forgoing the Electroweb, you don't need it. You're in Trick Room. So that's totally fine there. But pretty cool. So Assault Vest, Raging Bolt taking the regional by storm there. Roaring Moon also, like we just said, is getting stronger and stronger usage, and it's a great Pokemon. Again, Dragon typing really good against Ogerpon, especially with the Acrobatics, having a strong flying type attack into you know, pretty much all the Ogerpons because they have that grass typing there. And then of course the dark typing, great into the side spam stuff. And then of course you also have the option for knockoff to be able to, you know, remove key items from certain Pokemon, and you're relatively bulky, right? You know, like 101 Spadef with 105 HP is actually really good. And the way that you can build Roaring Moon, again, just follow the simple template and simple formula that has been being used right now. And that looks like this, where you have the Amoonguss here along with the Incineroar to provide you Intimidate and Redirection support to set up the Dragon Dance. Now, there is some Tailwind ideas with Roaring Moon still running around, but right now Dragon Dance has been the move that has been used a little bit more as opposed to something like Tailwind, because we want the Moon to be able to sweep. Then you have stuff like Ogerpon Wellspring, again, you know, just giving you this backbone here, this Fire, Water, Grass core. Then you add Flutter Mane here. Okay, and then this last slot here, you're very flexible in terms of what you want to use. You can definitely use Gholdengo here and give you that Dragon Fairy Steel idea in terms of that. But I feel like you want to go Tailwind in this sense if you're going to use Gholdengo. Or you can go with the Iron Hands idea, where again, you get another strong physical attacker that can give you some options into some Trick Room games. Or you can just go the Double Dragon idea with Raging Bolt. And then you get yourself another special attacker on the team besides Flutter Mane over here, right? So I feel like these are just all relatively standard common ideas that you can use with something like Raging Bolt, okay? And then in terms of like an EV spread here for a simple Roy Moon that you want to try and use, you can just simply do like max speed over here, which is good enough to outspeed something like a Landorus Incarnate here. And then just go second benchmark here at 164. Technically 156, we'll do 164. That gives you a nice even number. And then you can just round it out like this, just, you know, a little bit of HP there. Again, 191 will give you some leeway into Tyranitar, sand chip damage, able to optimize against that. But this is a very, very standard set that you can use and jump on the ladder and utilize right away with Roy Moon. Now, if we go into Lab Mouse here, if we just take a look at some of the Roy Moon teams, right? We already saw Maddie Morgan's team, but again, following that same template that I just showed you here, this is the Acrobatics Dragon Dance Terra Flying set with the Incineroar Among Us Ogerpon Wellspring backbone, and he chose to go with the Raging Bolt Assault Vest set here. So Maddie Morgan there. Now this one right here, this one is actually a little bit different. This one actually has the Armarouge Indeedee Tornadus idea. I remember this is something similar to what Dragonair Jordan was using a couple months ago, but again, Trick Room with Ursaluna, again, Earthquake, able to, you know, have that, you know, next to Tornadus. This is actually a pretty cool team. I like this a lot. Something a little bit different than some of the conventional stuff you might see. But then you also have the option for, again, you know, with the Grimmsnarl Screens idea with Okidogi, which we'll get into a little bit later in the video. But again, here we go, Roy Moon Gholdengo idea. This is with the Tailwind, and which is, again, something that Gholdengo likes to have. So if you want to go Roy Moon Gholdengo, I think you opt for the Tailwind as opposed to Dragon Dance, just to give yourself a little bit more speed control. And then the Ogerpon can be aggressive here with Swords Dance. So something like that is also pretty good. This one, wait, Simone's team, that looks like the same as Maddie Morgan's team. But again, we also see the repeat down here with Michael and Sanjay's team over here with the Indeedee Ursaluna idea. So some common cores that you can use. This one uses Entei over here, okay, with your Snarl idea as opposed to Assault Vest Raging Bolt. Let's go Assault Vest Entei instead. So this makes sense here with the Grimmsnarl Screens. Okay, so again, a little bit different. Again, 6-3 results, still very nice. And then over here, you know, again, just this one with the Iron Hands, Roy Moon, Flutter Mane, Among Us, Instant, Ogerpon Wellspring. Here's the AV Iron Hands. So it just, you know, pick your Assault Vest Pokemon. Do you want AV Raging Bolt? Do you want AV Iron Hands? Or do you want something like a Gholdengo here, for example, right? So it makes a lot of sense. Again, Dragon Dance setup, you know, just makes a lot of sense with our Roy Moon ideas right now. But again, great Pokemon right now. I think you should use it if you want something that's a little bit different than what's being used right now, as far as like, you know, something that's not, you know, the Gouging Fire stuff or even Priority Spam or Iron Crown Spam. I think Roy Moon has a great spot right now within Regulation F. Gouging Fire, like you mentioned, continues to storm the Regulation F meta. And this is a very standard set here with Breaking Swipe, Heat Crash, Howl, and Burning Bulwark. And I feel like this is an easy core to build around with because you fulfill all your two major core requirements in VGC. Your Dragon Fairy Steel and your Fire, Water, Grass core. And then your last two options are your flex slots. You can add two options there depending on how you want to play certain matchups. I've seen stuff like Among Us Rillaboom. I've seen stuff like, you know, Chenpao Rillaboom. And, you know, we have our own Gouging Fire team on the channel that we built for Philip that he was able to use to win the Knoxville MSS. And it was also used to win 2 other players challenges from 2 other players. So that's also really good. But Gouging Fire is an excellent option right now in Regulation F, just because you can boost all your physical attackers and have them do a ton of damage, especially when you have priority Pokemon like King Gambit here, and also King Gambit supporting your other physical options just because you can deter the Intimidate into them, right? So if we go into Lab Mouse, So, oh, by the way, just so we show the set, this is just like our set, a sample set. Enough speed to outspeed Urshifu, especially with the Scarf. Then enough attack investment so that Heat Crash is able to pick up most of the bulky Flutter Mains here. And then 220 HP investment hits the 208 mark. This is also pretty good if you have Rillaboom on the team, which will optimize your grassy terrain recovery. And that's really all there was to it. After that, we just put 4-4 in defense and Spadef. But if we just take a look at some of the Gouging Fire teams, right, besides the one that got second place here with Nick, Livia over here is going with the Amoonguss Chien-Pao idea, so that's still fine. Again, this is also what we like. We had Rillaboom here in that slot as opposed to the Amoonguss, but you know, again, Icicle Crash here. You know, you can even technically go for Ice Spinner if you want to be able to remove terrain, but the flinch chance is also pretty good. But again, this is another variation that you can use. Other than that, you can also put Dragonite here with Kingambit and Amoonguss. This was the initial idea that we had for Philip, you know, for the regional, but we made the option to remove the Dragonite and the Amoonguss and add the Rillaboom here and the Fluttermane in the grand scheme of things. So that was also pretty nice. Then down here, yeah, so this is the variation that we made for Philip. Again, the Chien-Pao and the Rillaboom idea. So that's pretty cool. And then he has the Assault Vest Kingambit here, as opposed to something like Black Glasses, which means you're going Miracle Seed Rillaboom. But again, Gouging Fire. Also, I just want to note Tera Fairy here. You know, we had Tera Grass over here. Again, it just depends on how you want to play. Like, Grass is great at resisting the ground stuff. Fairy is also pretty good against, you know, the Dragon weakness. They're both very, very good and very, very standard and common. It just all depends on how you want to play it. I think Tera Fairy is just a little bit more preferred at this given moment. Maurice over here goes with the Landorus option. Along with the Focus Sash Fluttermane over here. And here's the Black Glasses Kingambit. But again, same idea with the Tera Fairy option. So it makes a lot of sense. And then as we keep going down here, we see some of the other stuff with Kingambit, Ogerpon, and whatnot. But again, you know, you just look at the results. Like, a lot of strong positive results, especially all these 6-3 teams. Like, these 6-3 teams, you know, they're just one win away from going into day 2. So, you know, they're also, again, very, very strong results. I like Gouging Fire a lot. And, you know, it's just one of our favorite options to use right now within the meta. All right, how about the Glimmora team? So, again, you have the option to either use it with Dondozo or you can go the aggressive Tornadus route. So here, Fevzi, one of our old favorites to watch on Twitch, you know, brought the Entei variant with Glimmora here, along with Fluttermane, Urshifu, and Ogerpon. So again, you know, you have a Fire Water Grass core here with Entei and Ogerpon here, then Glimmora Meteor Beam set along with Tornadus. You know, very, very standard here. So this is one variation. And again, we had a couple of these into day 2, so that's also nice to see. This one has the Chi-Yu variant, which is one of our rentals, of course. You have the option here to go for Life Orb here, or Choice Specs, and Life Orb was chosen here from Matthew. So again, just makes a lot of sense. The Chi-Yu will make the Flutter and even the Glimmora do a little bit more damage, right? And then that's a Sunny Day Tornadus as opposed to Rain Dance. Then Sam's team over here, again, the same variant, the same Choice Specs idea, and this is still a Sunny Day in all things considered. So you can run it that way, or you can do the Dondozo way, which, by the way, no Dondozos in day 2. I also just want to stress that. No Dondozos in day 2. A couple 6-3 Dondozos, and they all have Glimmora, but no Dondozos in day 2. All right, so, you know, Dondozo has seen better days. So here we go. Typical 2-2-2 stuff, right? Dondozo, Tatsugiri, Dragonite, Chien-Pao, and then Ogerpon and the Glimmora here. This is the Defiant Ogerpon, actually, right? And then this is still Meteor Beam, Sludge Bomb, Mortal Spin, so no Earth Power here from the Glimmora. And you still have Spiky Shield, of course, right? So, you know, good showing from Glimmora. I think the Tailwind idea is still strong, a little bit, actually much better than the Dondozo variant. So if you want to use Glimmora, make sure you use the Tornadus variant. All right, how about the Ting Lu Kommo-O squads, right? So here's how they work, right? So you have Kommo here, which is going for the setup for the Iron Defense Body Press stuff, right? Then you have Ting Lu here to reduce special attack damage. So this is now becoming very, very physically tough to break. Then you add Ting Lu, which is reducing special attack damage. So now, how do you break the Kommo here, right? You don't. And then same thing here with the Porygon. You have Incineroar here to also still reduce physical damage. All the while, Ting Lu is also reducing special attack damage. So now the Porygon with Recover all of a sudden just becomes annoyingly hard to break as well. And the whole team is relatively bulky. right? And then your last 2 slots are your flex slots here. So that's pretty much how the engine works for the team. If we go into Lab Mouse, let's see how they did. So here we go, Eric Rios with 12-3 result. Very, very strong result from a very, very good player. Here's Gholdengo here, with a ton of damage from Make It Rain. Here's the Trick from it. And then Amoonguss, of course, will also thrive in Trick Room. So here's your support for, all these strong options here with Ting Lu and Kommo-O and the P2 over here. So that's one way to run it. Then, as we go down further, another day 2 result from Alex Gomez right here. So again, still the same thing, like Amoonguss, Gholdengo. So like they may have been using the same squad, and it's pretty much the same core, right? Then we go into some of the 6-3s. So now we got Fluttermane in here as opposed to Gholdengo, but still the essence of the team doesn't change. You still have the same 4 core. It's just all depends on what you want in that last slot. I think Amoonguss is definitely a must onto teams like this just for a little bit more healing. Then over here with the Moltres, another good sleeper pick. This is a Clover favorite. Remember, we made something with Moltres for day 2 Worlds. But again, you have healing from the Amoonguss. You have Incineroar here for physical attack damage reduction. And then, a dark type here that does relatively well into, side spam stuff, along with a flying type / move that is great into Ogerpons, right? So you have that going for you, but still you have the same core. But now Fluttermane over here does have access to Trick Room. So that's also very interesting. Just in terms of the set that we see here from the Fluttermane. So that's pretty cool as well. But all in all, like, again, we have 2 of them in day 2 and a bunch of 6-3s here. So not too bad, I would say. Then a couple 5-4s. So it didn't have like an amazing result, but it did do decently, right? Now the question is, where can it go from here? Do we still see this rise in a few more regionals? Do we still, or are we more or less going to see something like this where we get 1 or 2 people in day 2 and then everybody else just falls under them, right? So that remains to be seen. All right, how about some niche picks? So how about Volcarona at 8-6 here? So let's take a look at this squad from Yu Xiang. And it's basically your typical Terra Dragon Volcarona set with leftovers, right? This is something that we made with Keanu a couple months ago. And Keanu was able to do relatively well with Kingambit Volcarona here. But again, Choice Scarf Landorus, that's pretty interesting, along with U-Turn. So that's a set. Then you have the AV Raging Bolt Snarl idea. And then here's your instant Ogerpon Wellspring for your Fire Water Grass Corp. And here's your Dragon type, technically, your Volcarona. With Quiver Dance, one of the best setup moves in the game. Then all of a sudden becomes hard to remove because you're getting special defense boosts. And then physical damage reduction, you have the Incineroar here, and then even more special attack damage reduction, you have Snarl, and then, just a lot of speed control here with Electro Web and Icy Wind all together. So, this is all allowing the Volcarona to potentially set up here. And again, there's no Heatran. Heatran was one of the Pokemon that was preventing Volcarona from doing relatively well even more. But now that Heatran has slowly dwindled down within the meta, Volcarona looking really good as a matchup within Regulation F. You just, the Flame Body is very punishing for a lot of these priority physical attackers, right? Because you have the chance to burn them, which is good, if you're using the Volcarona. Then, Giga Drain, great recovery overall, especially against something like Ogerpon Wellspring that likes to, go for a terrestrialization, go for that Terra Water idea. You can Giga Drain that, and then Terra Dragon will help you resist all of its moves. So, all in all, Volcarona is a niche pick, and I do like to see it in Regulation F as a niche dominant option here. So it's nice to see it over here. But moving forward, I think, I still think Volcarona Kingambit could make a play here, right? That's just me. That's just me, though. Another cool team alert that has some other niche options here was Robin over here at 30th place, 9-5, day 2 with Iron Moth and Sylveon. Oh my goodness, we have to look at this. So it's Farigiraf with Trick Room, right? Along with Sylveon. So this makes more sense as opposed to Fluttermane, right? Because if you're going to go Trick Room, you want to go the slower fairy route, which Sylveon can give you. And it's bulkier than Fluttermane too, right? This is something that we did with Philip, last year for Knoxville, where we were able to use Sylveon within the Trick Room team. And it works out well, especially when you had Gothitelle. But this is a Calm Mind Sylveon here. So you're able to just set up and be relatively bulkier. And then Incineroar gives you that physical attack damage reduction. So again, Calm Mind combined with Intimidate support, very, very good. The Sylveon becomes hard to break. Then over here, you have Iron Moth with Booster Energy, Heat Wave, Terra Blast, Terra Water, and Dazzling Gleam here. So, Iron Moth, very strong special attack stat. And again, another good strong special attacker. So you have that going for you. But it's just interesting to see how this all works. Like Cork Drive here again with the I don't know if this is modest or timid, so we'll have to ask Robin that. Hopefully they can comment. But, you know, again, still standard instant Rillaboom stuff. Double fake out pressure here with Ogerpon with the redirection, allowing the Sylveon to set up here and keep it safe from a lot of its options. And then Farigiraf, of course, just denies priority moves altogether. So, you know, Sylveon trying to set up here, Iron Moth also doing a ton of damage, and you're getting a lot of support from these guys over here. So pretty cool team to see within day 2. I think Okidogi is one of the strong sleeper picks right now, especially. I think we mentioned this earlier, but this is the consensus set right now with the Assault Vest, with Gunk Shot doing a ton of damage, especially Tera Poison here. Not Tera Poison, I'm sorry, Poison type damage here. Then Drain Punch, of course, good strong fighting, stab, recovery move, just like Iron Hands. High horsepower, of course, ground tech move there. Great into something like Raging Bolt, for example, or even some of the other fire types. And then upper hand, you know, again, just, you know, against priority moves, very, very strong idea here. Again, and it's stab too. So that's going to really help you. And then Terra Water here, again, just good defensive typing here. And Guard Dog, again, if they want to bring out their instants or whatnot, then you're just going to get the +1 attack there. You don't really get intimidated here. And this is a free EV spread that I'm going to give you guys. So 228 investment along with 108 Spadef. So if you have a Rillaboom on the team, something like this, the 192 HP mark will optimize that recovery. But specifically 228 and 108 with the Assault Vest will survive a timid 252 Landorus Earth Power. Then from there, you know, you just hit the benchmark here in attack, the second benchmark here with 92 investments, so it gets you to 176. And then you can just put 76 EVs here in speed, which gets you to 110. So this way, if you had something like Flutter Mane or Tornadus here, with something like Icy Wind on your team, just to give you a little bit of speed control, that will be enough to outspeed something like an Urshifu, for example, right? So, you know, this was just like a dump, more or less. What was more important was the bulk that this is able to live, but this is a standard set. So if we go into Lab Mouse here, if we just take a look at some Okidogi teams, like we saw from Jack over here, we'll just take a look here. So he's got the Grimmsnarl here with screens, so he may have some other defensive calcs here, you know, just relying on the Grimmsnarl here, and also Tailwind here. That's going to allow you to outspeed pretty much everything if you have the right investment. And then, of course, this is something that Gholdengo very much enjoys, right? So, again, Gunk Shot, Drain Punch, High Horsepower, Upper Hand, very standard set there that Jack is using. Then over here, again, same idea with Gholdengo, but actually, this is more or less the same team from Kushana, I think. Is it the same team? Yes, it is, right? It's just Entei here with Choice Band. Was the Entei here Choice Banded, I believe? Yes, it was. So they were more or less using the same team. So that's pretty cool. Then we look at Bren here with the Registeel Cresselia stuff. And again, the Okidogi's Terra Grass here. So it's probably relatively slow as well. So that's also really nice. And it has Knockoff, which is great at, again, removing important items that some teams may want to have. If we look at Mr. Learman over here, so here's another Okidogi team. But again, no screens needed. This is just Gouging Fire with Howl. Gouging Fire Okidogi is something that I'm willing to try and explore because this can do a lot of damage as well. But here we go, High Horsepower, Drain Punch, then Knockoff and Poison Jab. So no Gunk Shot, opting for Poison Jab. A little bit weaker, but with Howl, maybe not so bad. And then Chenpao allowing Okidogi to do a little bit more damage here as well. So this is actually a pretty cool team from Mr. Lehman. But I think Okidogi is pretty cool to use right now. The question for you guys is, do you want to use Grimmsnarl screen or not? Gholdengo, man, it's really taken regulationF right back. Like, look at this, all day twos. Like, this is such strong results from Gholdengo, and all things considered, right? Like, if we just, like, we saw Francesco's team already, right? But again, the Tailwind idea with Tornadus just makes so much sense. This is a nasty plot, along with Ogerpon Wellspring being able to set up. Like, if you have instant Ogerpon, right, and Tornadus, that's gonna best benefit Gholdengo, because now you have the speed to go for Make It Rains, and now you have Intimidate, Fake Out Pressure, and Redirection to be able to help you set up this nasty plot. So that's really, really nice. And we can see similar ideas moving forward, but we also saw the Ting Lu idea, you know, with Kommo-O over here, along with the Amoonguss and Instant here, allowing the setup. But this is actually a more aggressive Gholdengo with choice specs. So that's another way that you can consider running it, and that's what Eric Rios was doing over here. How about Christian over here? All right, and this one is that Metal Coat Nasty Plot variant. like we talked about before. Here's the P2 with the Trick Room idea, but here's Instant Amoonguss Backbone to be able to set up this Gholdengo over here. Then if we go to Adam's team down here, is this the Specs variant? Nope, this is the Nasty Plot variant, again, with the Instant Ogerpon Wellspring, Fake Out Pressure, Intimidate support, and the speed coming from Tornado. So that's a really, really good way to start off a Gholdengo team, just with these 4 options. Torn Gholdengo with Instant Ogerpon Wellspring, and then Urshifu just makes sense over here, the single strike one, and then this could be Flutter Mane or even Raging Bull. Just really depends on how you want to round out the squad. How about down here? No, that's more or less the same thing. But again, look at all these Tailwind Tornadus teams with Gholdengo. Like, again, similar cores, right? This is Metal Coat Nasty Plot, and then down here from Eduardo Cunha, is this more or less the same team? This is Leftovers Nasty Plot with Raging Bull over here, but again, still does not fully change the idea of the squad. What about David's team here with the Iron Hands? Again, Instant Amoonguss, Iron Hands, double Fake Out Pokemon with Trick Room over here, and then Gholdengo just does a ton of damage within the Trick Room as well, so it can benefit a lot there. So lots of ideas to use with Gholdengo, but I think the consensus is you want the Tailwind, and you want the Intimidate and the Redirection from Instant and the Ogerpon Wellspring. But a ton of damage would make it rain, into a lot of those Fairy types, especially when, Raging Bolts are going for Terra Fairy. You still have Flutter Manes going for Terra Fairy. So that means Gholdengo, if you're able to just outspeed them, you're able to just deal so much damage with Make It Rain now. And there's not a whole lot that's really stopping you from some of those teams that, yes, they have Fire types, yes, they have stuff like Landers. Of course, we understand that, but this is why you have Instant and Ogerpon, and this is why you also have the speed, coming from the Tornadus that can allow the Gholdengo to set up and outspeed some of those threats. I think Archaludon teams are also very, very strong, especially with that Assault Vest set. You're just able to go for these electro shots in the rain, which boosts your special attack, and you don't really need that much special attack, right? Like, even just the first bump is already pretty good. Like 125 is actually really nice. Then the question that you have to ask yourself is, do you want Pelipper on your team, or do you want Tornadus with manual Rain Dance giving you the rain on your team? And from there, the rest of the team gets dictated, but it just really depends on that. But here's a sample EV set here, with 114 after Icy Wind will outspeed and even speed creep the Landers Incarnate. Then what we have here is an even number for the body press stuff, after stamina boost. And then again, another solid even number, with the Assault Vest set, with 102. And then, instead of 36, we went to 44 modest, just so that we can get the even number after the +1 electro shot, right? And then just dump the rest into max HP here. So again, free Archaludon set for you guys. But if we go into the Lab Mouse tour, all right, Archaludon here. So from Alberto's side, he's going with the Pelipper here. And there's the Terra Fairy. So he's going with Pelipper, Archaludon for your rain mode, along with Urshifu Rapid Strike. This is one of the teams that can really utilize the Urshifu Rapid Strike a little bit more than the single strike. Amoonguss also is really good in rain, and it also gives healing to the Archaludon, so that's really nice. And then we're going with Landorus here, along with Flutter Mane for a little bit more special attack damage. Again, this whole team is special attackers except with the Urshifu over here. But Sandseer Storm, good synergy here with the Pelipper, of course, just because it makes it 100% accurate. It's basically a special variant of Precipice Blades, so that's a way to really utilize that. Then over here, this is the Baxcalibur variant with Pelipper, and this is our one of our rentals for February, right? Because Baxcalibur gives you a good matchup into Landorus, which is something that Archaludon doesn't want to deal with. And then at the same time, it also gives you good ice coverage into stuff like Raging Bolt, for example, right? And even Ice Shard priority is also relatively nice. So you can definitely do something like this with the Archaludon. I think it makes a lot of sense. Then you can even just consider the Brady variant, right? The Incineroar Amoonguss idea, which is our January rental, not our February rental, but you can even just put Tornadus here. But Pelipper is really good with Wide Guard, all in all, right? And Weather Ball is also relatively nice, all things considered. But Terra Grass Archaludon, Terra Fairy Archaludon, just really depends on how you want to use the Archaludon as far as like your defensive typing. But again, you can see some of the common cores here with Archaludon here. Let's just find one more here. That also uses Tornado. Oh, this one, you can even use this variant. This one's a little bit more interesting too, right? Just because it has Whimsicott. That's because you have Tailwind and Beat Up, right? Because again, if you beat up the Archaludon for the body press stuff, right? You know, that's gonna give it all these defense boosts, and then you can all of a sudden go for these hard-hitting body presses. So I like this a lot. So, and then at the same time, you have Sunny Day here. So with Sunny Day, now the Walking Wake all of a sudden looks really good. And I like this. Like Whimsicott with Tailwind, you know, and Sunny Day enables the Flutter Mane, enables the Walking Wake, and then Beat Up also will enable the Archaludon. And then at the same time, also does well under Tailwind, right? Now, you can't use Electro Shot here, so good choice swapping that out. And then going for Snarl, I like this. This is actually a really cool and different way of using Archaludon. So I want the rental for this. This is actually really nice. And then Arcanine comes here. Hisuian variant, very good under Tailwind. Another aggressive option with Sunny Day with Flare Blitz. And then the Sunny Day makes it take less damage against water types. So that's actually really good. This is actually a really, really cool team. I actually want to use this. So hopefully I can maybe reach out to the person and maybe get it for a rental team. But this is one way to really utilize Archaludon. That's a little bit different than some of the other stuff that you might see from an Archaludon or an Archaludon team, however you want to say it. Is Iron Hands rising one more time within Regulation F? So basically the consensus right now, the Clear Amulet set is what people are using at the given moment, just because, again, it helps you against the Intimidate cycling from something like Incineroar or Hisuian Arcanine Landorus or whatever. So what's really useful now besides the Clear Amulet is, again, close combat, just allowing it to do a ton of damage. And then at the same time, you still get Fake Out, Wild Charge, and Heavy Slam to be able to pin some of the Flutter Mane slots. Now, we do see pretty much a lot of the Iron Hands coming from Nick's team, you know, just because that was the popular team that people wanted to use with Blood Moon and Tornadus. So if we take a look here, like if we just go through the list, like here, the other Nick over here with Amin over here, and then David's the only odd one out here, but after that, like, look how often you see that kind of team here, right? So if we go back to David's team here, he's actually using the Assault Vest Iron Hands here with Terra Grass. So that's also really nice to see that. But, you know, just besides the Clear Amulet set, which is still like really, really good. Then right here from Michael's team, this is actually a really cool Walking Weight team with Torkoal and Venusaur. So Venusaur here with Iron Hands is also relatively nice. And then here's Walking Wake here. But again, Assault Vest Terra Grass. So not everyone's still using the Clear Amulet set. But for those that are, then again, here it is. Like, again, you already know from Nick's team that it is going to be Clear Amulet. And it is going to be the Hearthflame Ogerpon from that sense. Okay. Then if you just keep going down into the other 6Vs, like Iron Hands did relatively well. Like, there's a lot of day 2s with it. Okay. You know, from Nick's team. And then there's a lot of 6-3s. So all in all, like a good showing from Iron Hands, and I think people may want to explore it a little bit more because it's not bad. It's just people forgot about it. Like, it's still like pretty good, all things considered. It's just, you know, you already have Incineroar now, so like that's already your dominant Fake Out user. You don't need your Iron Hands. But and then as far as an electric type, people are using Raging Bolt. I understand that, but that doesn't mean that Iron Hands is not good. Like, it is good. It just it depends on the team that wants to utilize it. All right, so that pretty much covers our recap of Dortmund Regionals. So once again, shout outs to Pika VGC for winning the whole thing. And, you know, what did we really get out of it? Like, for me, the 3 dominant teams right now are those Assault Vest, Raging Bolt balanced teams, the Gouging Fire teams like we saw from Nick, and of course the Blood Moon-Ursaluna teams with Farigiraf, right? I feel like all these Farigiraf teams are in some shape or form are relatively good, but those 3 are the squads to beat right now. And everything else, stuff like Iron Crown, is still good, but, you know, is right under it. Even Rory Moon Balance, also very good. The Glimmora Hyperoffense, also very good. These are all A-tier teams, but the 3 S-tier teams are the ones that I mentioned. All right, let me know what you think of the results, and let me know if you think we missed anything from Dortmund. We'll be back with another video in the next one. Peace out, and have a good one.